The Strain series finale, The Strain. This was definitely a great series finale. I had to make sure I actually saw it tonight. I've been watching, I mentioned this a million times, but like the past month and a half, the DVR hasn't been working, so it has to be like live TV, or I just wait until it's online. And typically, I would just wait till it was online because it was like, well, what if I miss this scene and it's important? Just, the factors of watching, live television and missing something. And this time I was like, no, it's the series finale. I'll just have to figure it out. Like, I will just do it. And I didn't catch the actual premiere because I actually wasn't here. I caught the second showing, and they're doing at least 3. I saw on the guide they did like the first showing from like 10 to 11:04, and then the showing that I saw was 11:04 to 12:08. And currently the third showing is on because it's only it's only 12:15 now. So they're doing another airing of the final episode as well. So it was cool. I was like, if I miss something, I can just wait. That would have sucked if I had to wait like the full hour to see like one scene again. But fortunately, I was there, no bathroom breaks, missing anything. But it was a really good finale. And I mentioned in my last review, I was like, I tend to throw stuff out the window. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen, who's going to live, who's going to die. But it was definitely interesting. Things, started to play out. I actually saw, like, clips, like, little bits and pieces of the ending because I, of course, didn't want to miss the beginning of this episode. So I knew that at least Gus and Fett, were going to end up living. I knew that for sure. I was like, okay, that's it. Everyone else, there's still quite a few characters, and I didn't know who would live and who would die. Some of them did die, some of them being very important characters. So it was a very interesting episode, of course. Picking up right where the last episode ended, you have Quinlan in the Empire State Building. He takes out this Jaguar like it's nothing, decapitates the one. And I love the fact that they did it this way. It was like they didn't even get the chance to swarm him, and he does a cool fight. It was just like, nope. Drop the blade, pull out the guns, boom, they're all done, and then he just shoots the one that shows up at the stairs. I was like, okay, well, that wasn't the crazy fight sequence I thought he was going to have to deal with. It was just like, done, and then he was good to go. So he leaves there. The team on the ground ends up, they split up, so Gus, Roman, and the rest of the guys, they actually end up staying. One guy gets killed, he gets infected, so he takes a grenade, tries to do what he can to hold him off. Turns out the other guy, I believe his name was Marcus. I never really remembered his name, but I believe it was Marcus. He ends up being bit, unfortunately, and I figured that might happen. I was like, we know him just enough for him to be important to me, because he's been there, if I remember right, they introduced him along with, his former boss in Season 2. So it was like, alright, well, he's like just important enough of a side character to, where it would make a difference. So of course he does end up being infected, and Gus, kills him, and of course he's pissed. It's like, that was like that last person that he was really close to, outside of, the actual team. So he's like, alright, we're leaving now. So they take off. They ultimately end up gathering with the rest of the group at the end of the episode. And in between there, we have the final plan against the Master. And Quinlan takes it to Fett because it's like, with us being under this tunnel, we do get that final story, that final history lesson with New York, which I thought was cool because that's technically like a current story. It's not like, oh, this happened a long time ago. It's like, that started a long time ago, but it's actually still going. And I thought that was actually really cool. It's like, wow, I've never heard of that before. So might have to look that up just because that actually seems crazy to me that, they'd set up a 50-year plan like that. But Quinlan realized it was like, these tunnels are a lot like the other Masters, their headquarters. And destroyed them, but nothing happened to the city, and this is what we need to utilize in order to take out the Master and, save New York, which I don't care about, but I know you do. So it was just a very interesting plan, and of course they go through this process of, Fett being the one to say, I'm definitely going to do that, and he has this conversation with Dutch, and of course they kind of rekindle things a little bit, which we get a little bit of tease for at the very end of the episode as well. But, she doesn't want him to do it, and she even asks F to kind of talk him out of it. And ultimately, he had that goal set in mind where it's like, this is what I'm going to do. We blow the cord here, send Quinlan and the Master straight down, blow this elevator cord, and everything's good. And, of course, everything gets super crazy once they actually end up getting swarmed, because when Quinlan tackles the Master, he ends up hitting Zack, and he knocks him into the elevator. And so F, blows the cord, and he takes the elevator straight down. And I was like, the whole point of this was there was no way for them to get out of there. Like, Quinlan knew what he was doing. Like, it was like, once I'm down there, that's all there is to it. Like, I'm here. I'm stuck here. And he has his battle. And I was hoping that somehow he'd be able to, like, live until it was detonated. But, of course, they kind of have to go, like, up to the last second, too, with the tension. And I knew what was going to happen, of course. Ultimately, Zack had his redemption, which, had some horrible things. He sets off a nuke, I don't know, this is like the nuke, counter nuke, I guess, for him. But it was definitely a cool sequence with the Master and Quinlan fighting, and Quinlan knew that he won, which is also cool. It wasn't like he thought that maybe things would go bad. He knew at the very end, he's like, I've won. And even though he knew he was about to die, he's like, I know this is going to work because that was the whole point of this. Like, you're trapped, and I know that nothing went wrong up there. So it was just really well done. And even though, he gets killed off there, he does get a really good final blow on the Master where he, like, basically rips his throat out, which I thought was really intense. And so once they realize that F is actually down there, when the little, the gate swings open as he's walking towards the nuke, Zack pulls the gun on him. And, he shoots past his head, and of course the Master tells him, like, kill your father so we can actually be free. And he says that he can't because it's actually his father, which brings up a big thing, which they talk about early on in this episode. And I mentioned this during my last review. It was hard to tell. It was like, even though Zack was screaming, like, I just want to save your life, I'm just trying to save you, it's hard to say. And, they, like I said, they kind of make a point to that in this episode where Dutch is like, he said a lot to manipulate you. Maybe even in that moment, he was busted and he was just trying to say, like, I'm just trying to help you, please, be on my side. And ultimately it came down to it. He actually meant it. Like, it was his father, despite all the horrible, crappy things that kid has done throughout this entire series. He ultimately couldn't do it. Just like his father couldn't kill him in the last episode, he could not do it here. And when he was about to get taken over, which I thought that was a really crazy sequence, because it was already like they killed Quinlan before everything was able to finish. It was like, okay, well, where does it go from here? And then Zack making his choice, and then he's about to be taken over by the Master, and F jumps in to get him, and then he's taken over by the Master. Like, he doesn't just kill him, which is what I thought was going to happen, and then Zack would have to, like, run in the middle of this process or something. I thought something was going to happen, like, with the blade. But, I wasn't sure what to expect. And then the fact that F was kind of, in a sense, he was killed by the Master actually taking over his body was just a crazy way to do it. It's just not how I thought it was going to happen, because I just thought the Master would flat out kill him. But it was a really good moment, and, he's taken over, and they have, like, this final moment between F and Zack before the Master officially takes F over, and he's trying to set off the nuke, but he just can't do it. And and this was a really good moment too, where the Master thought, even though he screwed up in that one point, I'm now, visually his father, I can make him see his mother, I still have him, in my grasp. Like, that's what he thought. And I thought that was such a great moment that even the Master couldn't see through what, just happened during that moment. He was like, well, I'll just take over your dad, and I'll kind of manipulate you like I have been for the past 9 months. And he thought it was working with, Zack asking if his father was there and saying, if you are, I love you. And it was just a good moment, because you could see the Master, like, he kind of smiled a little when Zack said, I love you. And I was like, that's actually really cool that he thinks that, Zack is just once again under his control. It's like all he needs is the visuals. It doesn't matter whether his dad is truly in control or not. So I thought that was a great moment. And of course, Zack actually flips the trigger, sets it off, kills himself, kills the Master, and basically they end it all. They save the world. And so we get a pretty cool time skip. We get, a big 5-year time skip, which is kind of classic, for a series finale. Whenever it's like a post-apocalyptic thing, it's always like, years later, everything's finally good again. But, we have like our final bit of narration with that, and it's like, Roman went on to basically be like, this huge property owner. Gus, I kind of wish they actually had a sequence. Unfortunately, they didn't. Like, it's still like the hope is there that he will eventually meet her, but he's just driving. He left to help a bunch of people, in the aftermath, and he's hoping to come across, and I wish I could remember her name, but, the woman that he kind of had to let go at the end of the last season. And I just thought that was really cool. I was like, it would have been awesome if he did see her, and it was like, as happy as it could possibly be. But I like that idea, it's him kind of leaving it all behind and just going out to help who he can, and maybe at some point, he'll come across that woman he's always been looking for. So I thought that was a great moment. We get to see what Fett is doing, what Dutch is doing, and I love the fact, honestly, Fett goes to, basically help kind of rebuild the infrastructure of the internet, and, or Dutch goes back to do that, and Fett just goes back to just, doing his thing as an exterminator. It was just like, yeah, just going back to basics with him. So I thought that was really funny, but it was a great moment. It was a great moment. Of course, it ends with them having sunlight. He talks about how, 5 years later, they're getting 6 hours and more. It's growing every day of sunlight, and things are just calmer. Things are just better than they once were. So I thought that was actually very cool, and ends on this cool shot of the bridge and stuff, which I thought was super funny. I'm like, it's been 5 years and they didn't, finish the bridge yet. But I mean, they had a lot to clean up, so I guess. But I'm like, it's been 5 years. I thought that was like the one thing I noticed. I was like, that seems weird that they wouldn't finish that in 5 years. It wasn't even like partly done. It was like they just had some cranes up there. I was like, it's not even like the wire frame of this bridge. It was just still a big empty space in the middle, and it just made me laugh. I was like, I feel like after 5 years, there'd been at least a little bit more than that, and it was still just completely empty. And I don't know why, but that really stuck out, and it made me laugh like crazy. But it was a really good ending. It was, a crazy ending because, as I mentioned, I was like, you never really know how things are going to play out in the series finale. Who will live, who will die. It was just hard to say because it was, with the way the show plays out, throughout the entire series, the whole story has kind of been every finale, F has lost something. Other characters, lose stuff as well, but that's almost like an end point every single season. Like the end of the first season, or at least during the first season, of course, you have him losing his wife, to this madness. He loses his best friend. At the end of the second season, he loses Nora. And it just keeps going. Or I think that was, the end of the second season he lost Nora. So I don't even remember. I think the second season was when they first tried to kill the Master. So they were constantly just losing something, especially him. Every single season, something just got worse and worse. But it was nuts. It was definitely the second season because the last season he lost all of New York City because his son was insane. But it was just really well done. And, in the end, he saved his son and lost himself. So I thought it was just a great way to end out his character. And to end out the series in general, I thought it was just really, really well done. So definitely a great way to end the series off. We definitely had the loss of a couple of, pretty cool characters. Quinlan was gone, F was gone. Even though he was a minor character, Marcus was gone as well. But I was glad it wasn't more than that because I was like, I don't know, is it just going to end up being like, 3 characters live? So not too many more, but still, it was pretty awesome. And early on in the episode, we got a pretty cool flashback. We actually got to see, this is way back when, I think it was supposed to be season 1. And it was like, if he had, like, you could see the hair is supposed to be him with the hair and stuff. But we got to see Satrakian, and, he talks about how this is just the beginning of losing everything that you possibly can. And it's like, that's almost like a point of the series for F's character, where he constantly loses the thing that he loves the most. He loses friends, he loses the woman that he loves, he loses his son. So it was just a cool little flashback to, I guess it was kind of the foreshadowing, like you could lose everything with this. So it made a lot of sense with the way it happened, but absolutely love the finale, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts about it. Of course, would love to know your favorite moments throughout the entire series. Just some of the crazy deaths that we've experienced, some of the crazy kills even. They've had some of those for sure, especially when Quinlan first showed up. He was doing stuff and it was just like, holy crap, I didn't see any of this stuff coming. But it's been a pretty crazy ride, interesting story, definitely a different take on the vampire genre for sure, different style of vampire and everything like that. So definitely loved it, definitely a really crazy story. And yeah, it's just crazy that it's gone. It was just really nuts. And only 10 episodes. I hate when we have a final epic season. I just had that with Bates Motel. Every season of that show was only 10 episodes, so I knew what was coming. I didn't realize this one was only going to be 10 too. But really good 10 episodes. I really enjoyed it. But like I said, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the series finale. If you want to talk about your favorite moments of the series in general, if you're a comic reader, I still never picked up the comics. I don't know if I ever will, having gone through the actual TV show story. But I might. At some point in the future, I might actually pick up the comics just to see the differences and stuff like that. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode and the series as a whole. So please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.